I knew that if I marketed myself from my personal brand as a title expert, it would only carry so far. But if I branded myself as a real estate expert, then it wouldn't corner me into just being a title expert that no one even understands anyway.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Solid. This is episode 65, and we're so excited. We've got a special guest for you today, Macrae Heppler. And his dad was actually my PE teacher in junior high school, and we got a chance to connect and get to know each other about a month ago or so now, and just loved his story. And I wanted him to come on here today and tell you his story, because I know he had so many just incredible things that he could teach so many people from his story, from his parents growing up to the business that he's built. He's got a family business, and I know so many people have joked around in St. George calling him the unofficial mayor of St. George. And when you have people joking around like that, it just says you're doing some great things. That isn't something he's done himself. He's just done an incredible job building a great business, building a lot of relationships, and done it the right way. So I think you guys are going to get a lot out of today. What you think, Brandon?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, we were just talking how we've had some great guests on lately, and he's just another really, really good one to have. You guys are going to get a lot of gold nuggets out of this one as well. Just we're excited to bring this to you, and we really appreciate your support. I'd like to encourage you to make sure you hit the subscribe button, like, comment, visit our website, solidpodcast.com, and to check us out there. We've got some really cool tools that we're building on that as well. And we're just doing everything we can to give you information and tools and resources to live a more solid life. And we'd like to make an impact, a bigger impact in the world than we're making so far. We're growing, which is exciting. We've had a lot of really good, healthy growth, but we need your help to take this to the next level and really make the impact that this world needs. So appreciate you all. Thank you for the support. And until next time, stay solid. How old are you?
33.
Okay. How many kids?
One, with one on the way.
All right.
Got
Cool.
another girl.
1.5.
9 months or 9 weeks.
He didn't have a whole lot to do with that, though, huh?
No.
Just enough.
His dad was my PE teacher.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Holy cow.
My dad was a PE teacher at a lot of people around here.
Yeah, I
So
bet. Okay.
I had to stay in shape growing up. Or I had to stay in line growing up because he was at the school district and then my uncle was at the university. So everyone knew one or the other.
He was so cool, dude. He would let us box in class.
Yeah.
Really?
We'd bring boxing gloves to PE class, and he would let us fight.
Cool.
He would.
How cool is that?
That is cool.
Now teachers go to jail.
I know. Well, he quit school and because he's 67 now, but he's he's a fit guy. We always thought that he would go till he was 80 because my mom's 10 years younger. Mm-hmm. And so we thought he would just teach until he was couldn't anymore, right? And then out of nowhere, he was just like, you know what, I'm going to hang it up. And basically he just said, this was 6 years ago. And he was like, I can't be myself anymore.
Yeah.
If I'm myself, because he was hard on kids too, but in a way that I always have people that are like, dude, your dad was so hard on me, but I was so appreciative of it because of the accountability that it gave me as a 9th grade kid.
Right.
And now you can't make kids accountable because the parents show up.
That's sad.
And say, what the hell are you doing to my kid?
Yeah.
And it's like your kid's not doing anything. That's why he has an F.
Yeah, they ran an 18-minute mile. That's why.
They ran it or they crawled it?
Exactly.
They crawled an 18-minute mile. That's why they're in trouble. That's why they got an F.
Yeah, so he hung it up early. He kept coaching for a bit, but now he's done coaching too. So
he was pretty tough. I remember on the mile, he would make us had to keep these cards.
Yeah. That's good.
And then we had to beat that card every, I don't know if it was, do you remember? Was it once a month or something?
There was a progress.
Yeah. That's how it used to be, man. Yeah. My coaches were that way. Yeah.
It was good. Yeah,
that's how it's supposed to be.
You actually know someone cared.
And now it's like, what do they even do now? I don't even know what they do now.
I don't know either.
I don't know. I don't have kids there.
Yeah, so. I remember being a little bit nervous in gym class.
Because I remember
you had to beat your mile or you had to climb the rope all the way to the top. And if you didn't, you failed. Or you had to do, I don't know what it was, 10 pull-ups or something.
Pull-ups, push-ups. Yeah, rope climb.
Yep.
Miles. I don't think they do that. Do they do that stuff in school anymore?
I don't know if they even do. I don't know.
And we had to shower. Kids. If you didn't shower, you got an F.
Really?
Why you get written up or whatever. You'd lose points. We had to shower in 7th grade. Then they got rid of it in like 8th grade. So maybe there was, I don't know what happened, but
Yeah.
we had to shower,
Wow. Yeah, that wasn't a thing for us.
which I hated that part.
Wasn't a
just
thing
'cause-
for us either.
Just because when you're in 7th grade, it's
you
not
don't
like,
stink that
You're
bad.
showing
No.
you're showing your age right now. How old are you?
I'm 44.
44.
Yeah.
That must have. And what are you? 37, 36,
38.
38. So it wasn't even a thing for you because it wasn't a thing for us.
No.
But
Yeah, I mean,
and now it's like you don't even have. Like I don't even know if they dress out. Like I don't know.
Yeah.
Like I don't even know what they do for PE.
Yeah, we had to
training.
change. Did you
yeah,
have
we had
to
to
change?
dress out.
We had
Yeah,
to
had
change.
lockers, dress out.
Yeah.
Yeah. In fact, yeah, I loved our schedule because we had like block schedule A and B days, and so I would always make like my first 2 periods some sort of PE. So it would be like PE and then weight training.
Yeah.
Oh,
both
yeah.
days. So then I would just show up to school.
Do you ever have dreams where you forget your locker combination, like still?
No.
You don't?
No.
Do you? You never do?
But my safe is like that, so I still,
I do all the time. Like I'm 44 and I still have dreams about being in high school, forgetting my combination.
That's crazy.
To get in my locker.
did it happen to you? And you were worried about
It happened to my
what
friend.
was it?
It did happen to my friend. I remember, and he like lost
What
his crap.
created this trauma?
That's what it was. Like he was like, yeah, he was crying.
the janitor has
I'm
a
like,
key,
dude,
bro.
Pull it together.
Someone got a key to that thing.
No, I don't think he did. I think he just had one of those little. It wasn't a key lock. You had to
That's
bring your
fun.
own.
That's funny.
I still have dreams about
Wow.
that age. Did you ever have dreams about high school? Either?
Yeah.
of
Oh
you?
yeah.
Okay,
I have
just
dreams.
not lockers.
Just not that.
I don't think I dream very often. Well, I'm sure I do, but I don't remember them.
I remember them usually right when I wake up, and then they fade pretty quick.
Yeah.
But I have some pretty vivid. Like I wake up sometimes like what the hell was that? Just barely.
Wow.
I really do.
Wow. Yeah, I never do. I never do. I don't know.
You got to get a whoop, and you can track your.
That's what it is.
track
You
your
know what I
sleep,
used
and
to?
you can-
I used to have one for a while. Just check it out. I still have it, but I never wear it anymore.
Yeah.
Do you like it?
Yeah, it's been really helpful. I have really terrible sleep. I have sleep apnea and a few other things, and like I'm a mouth breather, so
You tape your mouth, dude.
I have been taping it.
Yeah,
the
how's
last
it- has
10
it been
days.
helping?
Yeah.
yeah.
Like my energy and like since I read a book called Breath by James Nestor. Have you read it?
I
Dude,
read it. Yeah.
Read it in a day and a half. Like
Yeah.
it spoke to me because I have tuberculosis. Well, I got it on my mission. I have sleep apnea. I have allergies, all these things, and I've always known that my mouth just like it takes effort for me to go like this.
Yeah.
Like to close my mouth if I'm just chilling.
Yeah.
My mouth is just always open. So like I read the book in literally 36 hours. It was on our way back from Cabo.
What's the science behind that?
And-
I've heard this, but
So there's a lot of science in it, but essentially, like just the makeup of our skull is different because we don't chew like humans used to because our diet is so soft now that it's actually changed the
They
structure.
don't eat meat, bro.
Yeah, because they don't eat. Yeah, seriously though, in a way, like,
Yeah.
and a lot of the harder, like even a lot of the healthy stuff now. In the book, he says like avocados, smoothies, some of the like things that people eat. It's just soft. So the skull, they did some science on old skulls versus new skulls, and our face is longer and skinnier, which has made our airway smaller, which has forced the mouth open. And anyway, it's pretty interesting. But basically, the science behind his experiment that he did at Stanford was he did 10 days with his mouth type shut, and then he did 10 days with his nose completely plugged. And so, and did some like blood tests and stuff like that throughout the 10 days. And the difference was like super crazy.
just the oxygen in the blood.
The oxygen and the carbon dioxide and everything.
So I guess when you have a bad cold or something, you're just screwed. You just got to breathe through
Yeah.
your mouth for a few days.
Yeah.
Your oxygen is going to be worse.
Yeah, because he said like the science in the nose, he said the nose is the most underrated organ in the body because no one ever really talks about the nose, but the power in the nose when you breathe in, it's the airway to your brain. The oxygen that you get through your nose versus your mouth is way
All of us right now are
better.
breathing through our nose. You notice that? Blake's breathing through his nose. See?
I tape
We're
my
paying
mouth
attention
at
right
night.
now.
Do you tape it too?
I do.
You
I
do?
Really?
Tape my mouth at night.
Yeah, see, and so I've consciously started to just breathe through my nose more the last 10 days. And it's been the last like 5-6 days that I've been taping it. And the energy levels, like when I wake up and like throughout the day, have been way better.
Yeah, it's an interesting subject when you go into sleep. There's so much you can do. You know, I've talked to you about magnesium and tart cherry prior to sleep. I don't know if you've tried that.
No.
See, Jeff says he's not vegan, but this cherry stuff he drinks is vegan. It says vegan on it. Just so everybody knows,
vegan.
in a solid podcast, Jeff does drink a vegan drink.
I am a vegan. I am. Everything I eat is grass-fed.
Right, yeah.
Everything.
It's just recycled into meat.
I only eat grass-fed meat, so
I get it.
It's all vegetarian.
Processed in a meat plant.
Yes, exactly. No. So
what is it? Cherry?
Tart cherry juice and magnesium right before you go to sleep. Dude.
It's actually good stuff.
It will help you sleep.
What's the name of it?
Good.
Really?
I use a company called Purium, and their product is called Apothecary.
Okay.
It's really good.
I've heard of magnesium for sleep, but I've never heard of the
Yeah, magnesium,
tart
I think everybody should take magnesium every day regardless. But with tart cherry juice, you'll notice. So I tracked my sleep for a long time trying to do that, like figuring out, because I was on this fix my testosterone mission.
See, and I've had that issue too.
Yeah, and so, breathing is a huge part because of oxygen, because that's a precursor to everything oxygen is. And then sleep, obviously, is a precursor to hormones. And then, like your temperature, what you sleep in, the temperature, what mattress. There's so much. How dark the room is. There's all kind of stuff you can do.
It's crazy.
Zinc, magnesium, and vitamin D, I would say, are 3 things that people should be taking every day for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
You know?
Have you ever done any research on the carnivore diet?
Mm-mm.
So we've done a podcast with a doctor. I'll send it to you. You should watch it. It's very interesting.
Really?
Because I think what you just talked about, the carnivore diet addresses most of those things you just talked about.
Really?
It's very interesting.
I'll have to. I did try being a vegan about 6 years ago.
How'd that go?
It's hard.
Yeah.
Really hard.
How'd you feel?
I felt less bloated and less. I've been trying to figure out my body for the last 7 years. And I went to, it was Red River Health and Wellness. I'd listened to an ad one time on the radio. I was talking about some of the things I was going through, and I was like, sounds like me. So I went in, did their blood tests and everything, and did the elimination diet. Super hard. I mean, it was the hardest. I love food.
I did the same thing. 2012. I did
Oh,
the
really?
same exact thing, yeah.
And I love food so much. I love going to restaurants. I love I love it for the entertainment and the camaraderie
aspect.
And I just love and in that same time period I had a chiropractor that we did the kinesiology, the
muscle
testing. And he told me that I was allergic or intolerant to gluten. And I was like, nah. And during that time was when gluten-free had kind of become a fad thing. And I was like, you're no way. No way. And so then it was a few months later, I heard that ad. I went in and we started talking. And he's like, yeah, you got to cut gluten. You got to cut sugar. You got to try to cut dairy. And just to and basically, I think refined sugar is just in so much of all of that. And I think that's kind of the root of it. And obviously the way, food is processed now, but I did that, and that led me to living vegan for, it was probably 6 months, and it was super hard. I did feel in some aspects better. I was a lot skinnier and I didn't love that. But I stopped after that. And
Did you get your blood done at all while you were vegan?
No, I didn't actually. I probably should have.
Yeah.
And now I can't say that I'm super conscious. Right now, the last couple of months I've been pretty bad with my diet. I need to fine tune it again.
Yeah.
But it's been a 7 or 8 year journey though of just trying to figure out different things with my body.
Crazy.
But that breath book last week I was like, man, if it's as simple as improving my breath.
Yeah.
And I know it's not going to cure everything, but if that alone will make a change, would be huge.
It's a great place to start. I think there's other things. Andrew Huberman talks a lot about this.
Yeah.
He's actually a Stanford PhD as well. He talks about the Jawser size. I don't know if you've ever seen that. It's like a little thing you wear around your neck and you can chew on it. But there's also this really hard gum that you can chew.
Oh, really?
And
that helps.
Or just get Invisalign like I've got right now, and you just got to make sure they're always tight. That's another way to do it.
So you're always chewing on it?
I'm always chewing on it.
Yeah, I think naturally I've always done that from boxing.
Yeah.
Just always clenching my jaw. Yeah. But I think, I mean, it's an interesting place to start breathing and thinking about, you can see, so Andrew Huberman, he talks a lot about this on his podcast where he'll post pictures. In fact, if you just Google nasal breather versus mouth breather and you Google the pictures, have you ever seen this? Maybe I can find, I don't know where my phone is. I don't know.
I'll do it.
You'll notice, see this? So this is like a mouth breather. So you'll see his chin is small.
And it's almost caved in.
Yep. And they have like actual pictures of people like this too. So then they'll do exercises. So this is an actual kid, right? So you can see his mouth breathing. You'll see this where like sometimes people have a double chin kind of thing. Their chin looks really small. And they think, oh, it's just how I was born. But then they'll start doing these breathing exercises, mouth taping at night, and then they get this square jaw. Men start looking really good. Women look a lot better as well. It's crazy how it changes the way your facial
It's crazy.
In fact, if you ever see people with big bags under their eyes, the bags are usually a result of
mouth breathing.
Okay,
that's good to know.
Yeah. So if they would change that, those bags under their eyes would actually go away.
So a lot of times you have to just train yourself. That's why you tape your mouth. Train yourself to do it. Because at night you might have a tendency to open your mouth.
Yeah, like a lot of people sleep apnea or snoring. It's a great way to solve it is just tape your mouth.
Yeah.
Which sounds like a crazy thing to do. But after you do it, you sleep better. You really do.
Yeah. And the other thing too with it is that he mentions is they say scientifically after 30 years old you can't grow muscle, but he's actually been able to grow muscle in his jaw through the techniques that he's done. He said it was like 5 pennies worth of muscle growth, and super interesting. There's a lot of behind that book, or a lot of. I need to go read it again. It's one of those books that I just want to read it again to get more info out of it. But
yeah, it's a great book.
It's a crazy. It's a potentially life-changing thing for me.
Absolutely. I think honestly, for a lot of people in modern society. Yeah. I think it'd be a huge thing. That's something we haven't talked about on the podcast before, so it's interesting you brought that up.
Yeah.
So
it's cool. I haven't talked to anybody else that had read the book.
My little brother actually, he's big on it, and he introduced me to taping my mouth, and I'm like, what, are you crazy? And so then I started doing research, found the book, bought that book. And then, because I had heard of Andrew Huberman, I love his podcast.
Yeah, Huberman's great. I follow a lot of his meditating and stuff like that.
Yeah, and if you like him, there's another guy named Peter Attia.
Okay.
Who also they do a lot of stuff together, and he wrote a book called Outlive. But this is another subject that they both talk about a lot. They actually, I was going to send you. Maybe I did send it to you the other day. He's one of the guys that does a really great job of breaking down cholesterol. And it's interesting to hear his, conversation about cholesterol and actually teaching what cholesterol is, what it does, why it matters. So it's interesting. But yeah, both of those guys. So yeah, follow them. And then that's what Andrew Huberman actually mentioned that book.
Oh, cool.
And so that's why I bought that book. So it's really good.
Yeah. And James I just listened to his podcast he was on Rogan a couple years ago.
Yep.
Talking about it too. So
it's awesome.
Cool.
So tell us a little bit about yourself, man. You're everywhere in St. George recently.
Seriously, every time I get on social media, Macrae's face is in my phone.
Yeah, everybody. You've done a phenomenal job.
Who are you? What do you do? What's this all about?
Yeah, so, that's, I'm not comfortable on social media still. It's taken a lot and I still am not comfortable in front of a camera. It's even stuff like this. Like I try, but it's been so good for what I want. It's like the business that I'm in is like the perfect thing for who I am as a person. And it's the videos and the social media has really just helped bring the connector mindset out of me, really wholeheartedly. But I am in real estate. I own a title company called Eagle Gate Title. We do the closings for real estate transactions is the easiest way for me to explain what we do. Yep. There's a whole lot more to it than that. But in a nutshell, most people don't know what a title company is, but they do know that they're going to go close on their house. So that's how I get through to people. Having said that, because the videos and the newsletter and what's happening in Southern Utah was born out of a few different things. One, the way we get business is 100% word of mouth referral. We work with mortgage lenders, realtors, builders, developers, people that are in charge of real estate transactions are the ones that are telling their clients, okay, you're going to go here for closing.
Yep.
And so when we started our business in 2015, it's actually 8 years tomorrow. August 10th, 2015 is when we started it. And that was my thing, was I was going to go out and get the business, and I was going to go meet people. And one of a friend of mine that was also in the business was like, you should do a newsletter and just as a way to drip and stay in front of agents. And I was like, man, I hate newsletters. Like, that's just, I don't want to do like a templated newsletter that people are just going to delete anyway, right? Or it's just going to go to their spam or whatever. But I was like, okay, I'll think about it. So a few months later, I went to the What's Up Down South Summit here in St. George, and all the developers had all the projects that were coming, and I had been all over town. In that time, I was just trying to meet people in the real estate community. So I was in brokerages all day long. And as I was going around town, I noticed dirt moving. And as a kid from here, I loved seeing new restaurants. I loved seeing new things to do. Mm-hmm. So I got really excited, and I was going around, and between that and the What's Up Down South Summit basically gave me the idea to just do a newsletter that was just what's happening in Southern Utah and all the new construction. I said, if I run out of content one day, like, I'll figure it out, but I'm just going to start with that. Yeah. And so that's how it started, and it introduced me to people, and people started following it. And then in 2018 is when I started doing the videos, and because the newsletter is a comprehensive list of the entire county. Yeah. And I found out what a drone was. I started flying a drone, and I was like, oh, this is pretty cool. Maybe we could do some drone videos of these different areas. And that's what led to what it is today. And it was really out of one, because as a title company, I knew that if I marketed myself from my personal brand as a title expert, it would only carry so far. But if I branded myself as a real estate expert, then it wouldn't corner me into just being a title expert that no one even understands anyway. Yeah. And so I started those videos and the newsletter as a resource for all those people that were sending me business, the realtors, the builders, the lenders, because they pass it on to a lot of their clients that are moving here or they want to be educated. And so I was kind of just like the one-stop shop for finding out what's going on.
All things real estate.
And so that's and then the educational piece of just becoming more known. So I love connecting, like I say. And so if I can get people to come to me and say, hey, I'm looking at buying a home. Can you help me? Or, hey, I'm looking to sell my house. Or, hey, I need a plumber, or I need an electrician, or I need, in some fashion, whatever the case may be, I wanted to be the guy that people could come to, and then I could refer people out. And I knew that if I focused on referring out, that people would refer back to, they would think the reciprocation, right?
Yeah,
and just
what a great philosophy.
Kind of the giver's gain mentality. I don't know if you guys have been involved with BNI ever, but their motto is giver's gain. And I think the more that you focus on giving, the more that you're going to get in return. And that was just the mindset that I wanted to have. And that's what led to what I have created. And then I'm just a big friends and family guy, and real estate's such a friendship game. You do business with who you're friends with. Yep. And so between those two things, it's just the perfect industry, the perfect business for me to be in. Yeah. And I love it.
Awesome.
Talk about that mindset. You guys, just the giving. I mean, 2015, you start this new thing, and you probably, I guess what's the whole mindset behind that? I love that. I think sometimes people might go, okay, what's in it for me? What's in it for me? What's in it for me?
Totally.
And that's I guess there's an element of that. Otherwise we wouldn't probably do it.
Exactly.
So where do you, draw the line with that? How do you keep it to where you really are giving? And then were you concerned about monetizing it? Yeah. Or did you just feel like, I'm really just going to give and whatever comes, did it naturally flow in? Did you have to go get stuff and start monetizing it How did it all work?
So, and that's the thing is in business, the end goal is to make money, right? And so you can do
it's business, not a social club.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But if you have the mindset, there's a book called The Infinite Game. It's by Simon Sinek. I don't know if either of you have read it, but it talks about having an infinite mind, which is along those lines of how can I give more? How can I and how can I do business in a way that is not necessarily a zero-sum game? In our business in real estate, there's 2,000 real estate agents. There's a couple hundred mortgage lenders. There's 14, 15 different title companies. And we're all working together. There's a buyer's side. There's a seller side. You have to think infinitely in a way that, like, just because I'm winning doesn't mean somebody else can't be winning too. Right. And you really have to have that in real estate, because we work even with other title companies. We have to do splits all the time with them where they're handling one side and we're handling the other side. We want to make sure that we have a good relationship so that when we're working together too, there's not any, hard feelings, right? And so that's being in real estate has really brought that aspect out of me. I'm a really competitive person. I grew up playing sports. My dad, like we talked about, was my coach, and very competitive growing up. And it was that book, and I read that book right around the time that Kobe Bryant died. And so I remember really, really well, because Kobe was like the ultimate competitor as well. But Kobe's mindset was a killer mindset, and he wanted to win. And you can have that killer mentality. And I'm not talking about participation trophies necessarily. It's just more so, just because I'm winning doesn't mean like my teammate or my opponent can't win also. Right. And so that mindset of giving is just having, when you go into a conversation with somebody, there is you can feel it when someone's just genuinely in a conversation versus when they're trying to sell you something or they're trying to get something out of you. Yep. You can feel it. And I've just always tried to go into every conversation with how can I help you versus what can I get out of you. Yep. And beyond that, and I get that from my parents. My parents are like the two biggest giving people I've ever met. And I think I was born with that mentality, but then this business, because when I got into this business as a title company, you really have to go out and you have to go try to get people to stop using who they're using and start using you. And you have to give them a reason why. Yeah. And I never felt comfortable just going to a realtor or going to somebody and saying, "Hey, I want your business." Just in myself, I couldn't feel comfortable just asking for business.
So you felt like you needed to provide value.
I needed to provide value, and that's what led to that mindset. Being in B&I as well, I spent the first 4 or 5 years in B&I learning that giver's gain mentality. So there's a few different aspects, things that shaped the mindset that I had. But it was, part of it was a need in order to feel like I was able to earn business. I felt like I had to give something back. Yeah. Because I didn't want to just go out and be like, "Hey, give me your business. Yeah. We're friends. Give me your business." Right.
It's like that whole philosophy: you help enough people get what they want, you'll get everything you want.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. And that's the thing is because when it circles back to the conversation of it is business, you do want stuff in return. But if you're not thinking about that, then there's a difference, and I don't know how to explain that.
I think you're doing a good job. And so you said your parents, you learned it from your parents. What do your parents do?
So my mom is actually my business partner. So getting back into that, we started the business in 2015. I was doing door-to-door sales back east. It was a way for me to start a business here. I just didn't know what that business was going to be, and I had invested in a gym and done a few things, but I hadn't found like the business that I was going to have for the long haul. I was interested in real estate, but during my 4th summer, I had come home and I was going to just say hi to my mom at the title company that she was working for. She's been in the business longer than I've been alive. But she's not the entrepreneur. She's not like, she wasn't a business owner. She was the producer, hardest working person in this industry and I'm not just saying that because I'm her son. Everyone in this industry here knows how hard she works. And I knew that. And so I went to say hi to her. They were being shut down by her boss, a former partner, and some litigation problems. So they were being taken over by another title company, and I walk into this mess, and she's a mess, and she's boxing up her office, and they're going downstairs and having to vacate. And I just said, what's going on? So she tells me the story. And the first thing out of my mouth is, well, why don't we just start our own? Like, you've been doing this a long time, my entire life. All I ever hear from people that are in the business is how amazing you are. You work your butt off, and all you need is someone that can go out and market, that can run the business the way it's supposed to be run. And I feel like I can do that. And it wasn't that she didn't believe in me, but we went back and forth for about 2 months. And there'd be days where she'd be gung-ho, and then days where she's like, nope, what if we can't pay the lights? She lived through the crash, 08 crash, and she did enough business to where she survived, but her and my dad definitely, I was gone. I was on my mission for the most part of that, but they definitely felt the crash. And so she's like kind of we're opposite. I'm super, super risk tolerant, and she is not. And so basically what I told her is, listen, every title company in town would love to have you. Worst case scenario, if this flops, you go work for somebody else, and then I'm 25, I'll go do my own thing. And
I love that, dude. It reminds me of when I started business, some guy said, dude, like, you're crazy. I go, worst thing that happens is I end up where you're at. I end up just like you. Like, what a great perspective.
Yeah. And so 2 months, it took 2 months. We partnered with, we have 2 partners up north for Eaglegate. They were already operating. They wanted something in St. George that they weren't operating. And so we own and operate this branch down here. They have 3 branches up north, and she is still the workhorse that she was 8 years ago. And we have the perfect partnership, because everything that she does I don't. And then everything that she doesn't want to do, the marketing, the out in the community, all of that is what I do.
Where did you learn that marketing? Was it door-to-door sales?
Partly door-to-door sales. The foundation of one of the founding like pillars of my success and who I am is the door-to-door, for sure, between my mission and the door-to-door with Vivint for 4 years. But I think before that, I've just always been a social guy. I've always loved friends.
You just felt like you could do it. You just felt like I can do marketing.
Yeah, and I knew that I had done sales for 4 years on the doors. I knew that I could translate that because of the mindset I have, the relationship mindset. Even on the doors, a lot of guys just go blitz neighborhoods, and like they don't really, not that they don't. I guess I shouldn't say they don't care, but they would just blitz neighborhoods. Mm-hmm. My mentality, I didn't sell as much as some of the top guys, but I sold well. But I would go into a neighborhood and I would run that thing to the death, because I would get to know the neighborhood. I would get to know the HOA president, or I would get to know who had Vivint. And then I would end up like talking to people that I knocked on their door the first day that told me no. And then I would go and set up some of their neighbors, and then I'd come back a week and a half later, and they're like, "Yeah, I see your signs everywhere. Like, what are you guys doing?"
Sounds like you had a longer term play in your mind.
Long term, yes, and that's part of that's another whole other conversation is long term. So many people think about tomorrow. Yep. They think about how to make money today, how to make money tomorrow, but they don't think about how to make money in 10 years, 15 years. And so, and with relationships, if you think long term, it actually helps you with that infinite mindset, because even there was agents and people I met back in 2015, 16 that they had their title guy. And my approach was always like, hey, I know you've got your guy. If anything ever happens, if they're out of town, if you need anything, or you just need a backup, let me know. And I would stay in touch with them, and there's been a few cases where 4 years later, somebody retires, somebody messes up, somebody, they want to shift, and I'm right there. Yeah. It's so having that long-term mindset is also has been a big play, or a key to what I've done. And so, circling back on where I was going. Anyway, that's my mom. And she was well known in the real estate community because of how hard she worked and how much she cared. And then my dad was a school teacher. He's retired now. School teacher, coach. He was at Dixie Middle School, then went to Snow Canyon Middle School where he taught Jeff, and then Dixie High School to end it. Was here for 35 years. And the stories that people tell about my dad from 1987, like it's on the top of their brain. That's how much my dad made an impact on people's lives.
He's a coach. He's a good coach.
Yeah. And
he's awesome, dude.
And so those two, and my dad was just the most giving, both of them, just the most giving mindset. My dad never leaves a situation. Like a couple of his Heppisms, he calls them. One Heppism is never leave something worse than, or never leave something worse than when you got it.
Yep.
Or in some, whether it's
something worse than you found it.
Yeah. Like, and just the way that they treat people, the way they treat every situation, has just been a real example to me and my brother. And my brother actually works with us as well. So it's me, my brother, my mom. He runs our title department, and it's seriously been the biggest blessing for our family. That was part of what allowed my dad to hang it up a little bit earlier than we thought. There was some dynamics like we talked about with the school that led to that as well. But really the blessing for our family has been huge.
It's awesome
because of this. So it's been awesome.
That's really cool. I want to delve into this a little bit more. So take us through the process of starting your business, 2015, and then maybe how does it go from serving, and then turning into a business where your dad can retire earlier than he was going to. Maybe you have some examples of how of things that happened throughout the last 8 years or so that. So
one thing is we've 2015 was kind of 2008 to 15, there was home growth here.
Yeah.
There wasn't much commercial growth. And that's why the timing for what I do with my videos and everything was pretty good with 2015, 16, because that's really when things started to come back commercially from the crash. And from about 11, 12 to 15, home builders had started building more, but it was still pretty low. And 15, 16 was kind of when things started to pick up more and more. And we've obviously had a straight up from 2015, 16. So for one, if we hadn't done well, or we hadn't done better year over year, I would be concerned because there's more business happening, especially the last 3 years. But really, we just focused on the team aspect within our business that has led to serving. Because in our business, in a service business, if you serve people and you just knock it out of the park for them, they're going to be revolving all the time. And so with our realtors, with our builders, with our developers, everybody, we've just made it so easy for them to do business with us.
They naturally want to reciprocate.
That they naturally want to just come back.
Talk a little bit about that, because I think a lot of businesses and a lot of people fail in this aspect.
Yeah.
In whatever business, whether you're going to a restaurant, whether you're dealing with someone in real estate, whether you buying a car, whatever. They blow it right here, where someone might do business with them that one time, but they get done with it and they go,
and they're like,
never
back. Again.
Yeah, I'm going to find someone else next time. So what do you think are some of those things that have separated you? Because like we said, you're all over town, and it's not just on social media. Everybody's talking about what you're doing right now. And so obviously that is.
And how do you say no to that face?
Yeah.
I mean, really, that's the moneymaker right there.
Yeah. So,
no, not quite.
So obviously it's, people are talking about you throughout the community. So it's happening real time, and what you're saying isn't just a philosophy, it's actually happening. So talk to us about some of those things. That what do you do differently than maybe either other title companies, or what are some things that you do differently
in general
that other businesses don't do that you see separate you?
So one thing is I'm not afraid to spend on quality people and taking care of quality people. And that's one thing that I think, not just in St. George, but in general, I feel like a lot of times, and it has been a thing here, low wages, the old school mentality of business. I feel like there is a new school mentality of business, and the employees have more power, especially the last couple of years, where it's kind of been like, well, if I'm not happy where I'm at, there's a plethora of jobs, right? Yeah. And so we've just always had the mindset of, one, we're going to make sure that, because what I think happens is people are understaffed, or their culture maybe isn't right, so they're always having people leave, and then training, and we had some of that through the crash, because we were growing. So from 20 to 21 was crazy, and it was every month we were hiring new, and we were just trying to keep up. But that was the thing, is we weren't trying to we were hiring as we were growing. And I think a lot of people, either from scarcity mindset of like, well, what if I hire these people and then we slow down and then I'm not making as much as I was and then I might have to let them go. And rather than that, it's like thinking, okay, if we stay ahead of the curve, we always have enough people to serve. And then we have that mindset of serving and of wanting, because ours is so revolving. We have realtors that are, every deal they put under contract, for the most part, they can choose where they're sending their business. Right. So we have to have that mentality of how are we going to blow the expectations out of the water so that every single time it's just a no-brainer, they're going to send it to us. But I think that part of the problem is that whether it's by choice understaffing, or I know that obviously it's hard in today's world to hire as well, but I think the principle is finding the right people, taking care of those people, appreciating those people as if they were your customers. Yeah. And I think that leads to good teamwork, good culture. They're happy when they answer the phone. They're happy when when they get an email. In our world, it's like, if you're not like quick and you're not answering the phone, you're not answering emails, people get really upset really fast. They feel like you don't care. They feel like you don't care. And so we've just made it so we have a team email address that no matter who is sending us whatever they're sending, we can jump on it. There's never a day where the phone goes unanswered. And I think it's just not being afraid to spend and to have the bandwidth for whatever situation.
It's not really spending so much as investing.
Investing. Right? Yeah, investing. That's the better word. And so like even this past year, we have gone down in volume since last June of 22 when rates went up and total volume went down. We were doing less. We haven't let anybody go. We haven't. Everything is plugging along, and yes, we're not as busy, but it motivates me to continue to have my foot on the gas, and two, we're set up to where, I think when rates do come back down in a place like St. George, there's just not enough inventory. We could have another frenzy again whenever that time comes, and so. I'm always able to say, like, if someone comes to me and they're like, hey, we've got this project or we're doing this, can you take us on? It's like, absolutely. Yeah. And I think in real estate, that's what is so funny about what you say, because in real estate, there are a lot of, whether it's a builder or a realtor or anybody in the transaction, where by the end, because you're dealing with that person for 30, 45 days sometimes, by the end, or if it's a new construction, way longer. And I unfortunately hear way too often, I use them and I'll never do it again. Yep. So our focus, because we are the closing room, we are the last step. We just always say, we are going to do everything we can to make sure the builder looks good, the realtor looks good, the lender looks good. And we're going to, it all funnels down into our office. And if we can tie a bow on it and make it pretty, no matter how hectic their journey was to get to that closing room, if we can make our part smooth, hopefully they can just remember that. Right. And I think that if more people in the real estate industry had that mentality of serving and, investing and making sure systems are good and all of that, I think we would have a lot better of experience in the home buying, home selling, home building process, right? Yep. But it's tough. I always tell people, there's like sometimes, especially on a new build, there's a couple hundred people that you're relying on to continue to move the ball forward. Yeah. And so in today's world where if you're relying on that many people, it could be unfortunately not pleasant, because it's a wild card if you're dealing with that many people.
Well, I think another thing, and give me your thoughts on this, like last year, I don't know how many homes were sold in Southern Utah, 3,000 or something.
I think it was like between 4 and 5.
So 4 or 5. So basically you got 5,000 opportunities if you were to take 100% of the market share to make an incredible impression, right? That's all, and if there's 15 title companies, you've got that many opportunities to make an incredible impression for the following year, right? And so sometimes I think whether it's a real estate agent or anybody in that process, whether it's a new home or and this just happens in any business, but using real estate as an example, they're not thinking about, okay, if I do a good job here, how many people do they go tell if I do bad? And then how many people do they tell if I do good? And usually it's a lot more if they're angry, they tell everybody because they're angry. And if they're happy, they're just happy, so they move on with their life.
Yeah.
But what I personally would like to get your take on is, I know, like myself, if I had a good experience and somebody asks me about that experience, now I might not be as vocal about a great experience, but if somebody asks me about it, I'm very adamant on, this is the only person you should use. I would never go to anybody else. And I think that weighs tons on people's minds when they make a decision like, oh, I would never go with anybody else. Do you kind of agree with that?
No, absolutely. And the problem, like you mentioned, the negativity is never what people are just like so excited to go tell everybody about. They're not, same with like restaurants on St. George on Facebook. Like there's this St. George word of mouth group, and you hardly ever hear of the good. You always just hear the bad. Yep. Sometimes when you get on review sites, all you hear about is the bad. And that's what's unfortunate, is that when it's a negative experience, we want to tell everybody. When it's a positive experience, we don't. And I think that the power in the compounding of those relationships and if you can harness if I'm dealing with you and we have a great experience, and throughout, I'm in some way asking you for referrals or letting you know, hey, like if you have any friends or family that are in this same situation, I would love to help them. Or, hey, do you know anybody else that's looking to, whatever it is, if it's real estate, do you know anybody else that's looking to buy or sell? Nope. You are going to be way more, at least maybe not vocally like to the masses, but you are going to be a lot more mindful yep. of when you talk to someone, you do say, you have to use this person. They're that good.
Yeah, I think that as well.
You just have to keep that in mind.
Yeah, for sure. I think definitely it's a good thing for anybody listening to this that owns a business. There's a lot of people I know that listen to our podcast that are in a service-related business where they have clients. But I also think there's probably a lot of people that maybe have jobs listening to this. Yeah. And I would like to get your take on this, because I feel like a lot of people that have jobs, they go, oh, I just do it because it's my job. And then there will be things like maybe picking up a small piece of trash or whatever. They'll say things like, oh, it's just not my job. When from an employer standpoint, if those people would go above and beyond, treating people good, answering calls when maybe it's not their job per se, or making sure things get done, don't you feel like you're a lot more likely to continue to invest more money in those people?
Absolutely.
Because not only does it help your business, but it helps your culture, which makes your clients, it helps your reputation around town, all of those kind of things, right?
I mean, and that's why I say we take care of our people. We're always incentivizing, we do bonuses that are based on performance of how much. So if we're working more like during the boom of 21 and 22, 2021, 22, we were doing a lot more work. It was a lot more stressful for everybody. It wasn't always pretty, because the stress in real estate, when it's like there's 50 offers on a house and the one that got it wants to close in 48 hours, and we got to do everything we can, and all this, there's so much stress involved. But if you can match that stress or exceed that stress with appreciation of whether it's a bonus or whether it's whatever it is, if the employees are, if they are outperforming or if they are going above and beyond, I am even more excited to give them more. And I think that that's the disconnect, though, because there's a lot of business owners that don't think about the employees in that way. And then there's also a lot of employees that don't have that mindset of like, hey, if I do better, I'm probably going to get rewarded better. And if they're doing better and they're not getting rewarded better, maybe it's not a great place and they can go somewhere else. But yes, if you are in that position and you are able to give more value and make it, those people, and that's what's so great about our office, our team, everybody has that mindset. Yeah. And it is something that we breathe, it's a culture thing for us. Yeah. Like when you come in, it's like you kill them with kindness is one of the things. Like, someone might be yelling at us on the phone for something that somebody else did. We're never going to throw that person under the bus, but then we're going to kill them with kindness, and we are going to exceed people's expectations. And I think that from the feedback we've gained over the years is we are accomplishing that. We are, you have to be different in the service business because a lot of what we do, there's 15 of us, there's 15 title companies. We all do the same service. We all do the same thing, but we don't all provide the same level of service. Right. And I think for employees that are in those situations, there's so much growth opportunity if you have that mindset.
Yeah, you said something powerful right there, that trying to match people's level of stress with appreciation, which I think is just gratitude, right? So finding some way to show gratitude, whether you're the employee to the employer,
right,
or whether you're the employer to the employee if there's high stress situations. I know in business myself in the past, looking back, there's a lot of times I could have done better. Now, I think we did pretty dang good because we are a recognition-focused business. But there are times definitely I could go back and go, I could have done better there, and
totally. And I've had those too.
Expressing gratitude. I might have felt it, but maybe I didn't do a good enough job of expressing it. And I think it goes both ways. Whether if you're an employee listening to this, showing gratitude by working harder, doing things that are maybe outside of the scope of what you're expected to do. But then if you're a business owner, the same thing, right? Whether that's bonuses or whatever it may be, just creating a better culture where somebody wants to show up to, right?
Totally.
Another thing I hear you say that I just want to bring up is everything from starting the business to where you're at today is it's like you keep mentioning things that sound to me like personal responsibility. You have this accountability factor where you're just owning the fact that it's up to you, right? And I think that's pretty powerful in business because a lot of times people are saying, hey, there's 200 people involved in a transaction, so I can't control everything. But you didn't say that, right? You said, hey, regardless of what happens up to that point, my goal is to make the transaction, put a bow on it, send them out the door happy, right?
Yep.
So where did you get that perspective from? Because I think whether we did that with our family, a business, any relationship we have, if we treated every relationship like that, our lives would all be so much better, right?
World would be a better place. Yeah. I don't know. I think, going back to growing up, I think my mission, being forced into another country, learning a different language and really having to try to understand people even more, and how learning a whole different culture. I think my door-to-door experience and talking to people, and I mean, it's not easy knocking on someone's door and 45 minutes later you're walking out with a 5-year contract on an alarm system and feeling good about it. And I always did feel good about it. And I think that that's what I loved, I've always just been, the end goal for me is just freedom, right? It's freedom to do what not in any arrogant way, but freedom to do whatever I want, whenever I want, and not be tied down to anything, right? And so I know that to get to that point, it's going to take a lot of personal responsibility and a lot of. That's what led me to getting on the doors. And then once I got on the doors, the first weekend I went out, I made more than I had made at my Jimmy John's and Foot Locker jobs that I was doing while I was going to Dixie State. I'm more in one weekend than I had in 5 months there. And that started kind of when the light turned on and was like, okay, if I want to control my own destiny, I want to be free. I don't want to be tied down to anything. I want to be able to go somewhere. If I want to go somewhere, I want to be able to clear my schedule and I want to be able to be there for my kids. My dad coached me growing up. I would love to do all these things. It's going to take me controlling my own destiny to do that. And I think a lot of those things that I've done in my life has just led to, and with the door, like knocking doors, it's like I got dropped off on a corner and it was up to me.
See when it gets dark.
Yeah, it was up to me whether I was going to go pound the doors or I was going to go sit at the McDonald's like some people do. And my income, my everything was on me. Yeah. Right. And I think that doing hard things like that, I would tell anybody in the world, go knock doors, and you will find the grit that you will get and you have to have, and the just the ability to push through hard things and be responsible for yourself in a sales job. Because if you're not selling, you're not making any money.
Yeah. And somebody else is.
And somebody else
so you can't blame and say, hey, this isn't working. The reality is it's working for someone else.
Exactly.
Right?
And so I think that is a long-winded answer to what I think has created this personal responsibility in me, because the end goal is large. It's freedom, right?
Yeah.
And freedom is from a job or from, our business, because like this phone, this is the last year, this has been my primary focus of like not being a slave to my phone.
Yeah.
That's the biggest thing. And that's one of the things I still feel like I need a lot of work on.
Yeah.
But the end goal is that. And so I just want to do everything I can to keep pushing toward that goal.
Well, for everybody who's listening, I mean, freedom, when we can master ourselves, we have freedom, really, right?
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of what we're talking about today is mastering ourselves. Talking about breathing through our nose earlier, and you going out and knocking doors, which you probably didn't feel like doing all the time, but you learned how to do it, and you chose to do it anyway, even though you didn't feel like doing it. So when we master ourselves and we have the ability to do that, we have freedom. Yep. When we are unable to do that, we do not have freedom, right? And I love the talk of all this, because just even as employees, those that are employees out there, like we're talking about, just give it your all, do your very best at whatever it is you're doing. I guarantee someone is going to come along, or somebody's watching you, or that's going to benefit you later.
Totally.
I mean, I'm so grateful for parents who, their number one lesson for me when I got a job was just be the hardest working person there. Yep. Show up early, be the hardest working person there, which I did, and that led to being irreplaceable at those positions. Yeah. Every time I would change jobs and go to another job, every time the boss would offer me a bigger raise. No, stay, I'll pay you more. Yep. Every single time. Yep. And so I learned that at a very young age, and went on my mission, be the hardest working missionary. I did that. I did that on my mission. Then when I came back from that, started a business in the financial industry, and just learned to focus more than pretty much anyone else. And there's not very much competition out there, because most people do not choose to master themselves. It's not that they're not capable.
100%.
They just choose not to.
I used to say that, make sure you go the extra mile, because very rarely do people ever do
There's
that.
no competition.
Yeah, nobody's ever there in the extra mile.
And no, it's so true, especially, and circling back to real estate, I have people that are like, oh yeah, I want to do, I got someone the other day that was like, I want to start a pool company. And they do have some experience, and they were like, what do you think? And I said, there are a lot of pool companies here, but I will tell you that 95% of them are hated by the people that they did their pools for, because they didn't communicate. The time frame, everything was
so true.
Was so bad that you could go, and that's why there's so much opportunity here in St. George, because you could go start any of those subcontracting businesses, and if you know what you're doing and you communicate and you're reliable and you show up when you say you're going to show up, you are going to defeat.
There's no competition. There's really not.
And I would say that's most places,
and that's,
right?
Yeah.
You go to any city, there's a few big companies, but they're big because they do those things.
Exactly.
And if you do those things, as Brent, as you're just talking about responsibility, employees taking opportunities, this kind of things, it just reminds me of your mom, right? You say, if your mom wasn't the hardest worker, like you were saying.
Perfect example.
She had this reputation. But my guess is if she didn't work like that and have that reputation, you wouldn't have said, hey, let's go start a business.
No way. And that's where it comes down to the own your position. Like, even if you don't own your company, own your position. Yeah. And if you own your position, and that's what she was the perfect example of, that I was able to see my whole life, was how much she owned her position. That was not it. She didn't own the company, but she owned what she did, and she perfected what she did, and she worked on the details, and was how you do the small things is how you do everything. And that's one thing. One of the big lessons I've learned from her too is there's sometimes I'm a fast paced guy, and I'm a guy that's more, I don't look at the details, and that's what's really good with her and with what I do. And so there's sometimes on deals where I get involved a little more, and I'm like, let's just get it closed. Like, let's go. Like, we got to get it done. And she's like, but we need this, and this. And I am like, oh, why? Yeah. But then it ends up, we get it all, everything's good. And had we not done those things, we would be put in a position of maybe some vulnerability if we were to be audited, or if there's certain things that we have to do. And it's not that I was like, let's just go. Like, it was just more so my personality is more like, let's just get it done.
Yep.
Whereas her, it's like how we do everything is how we do the small, or how we do small things is how we do everything.
Yep.
I love the lesson here, talking about your mother. I don't know how many years she was doing that for before you joined.
30 something, you said?
27 years.
28.
27. So the point with this is, so she did that very diligent, built a great reputation, and then her opportunity came when her son came to her 20 years later, and then you build an incredible business together. My point is we don't know when that's going to happen.
No.
People are watching. She was building, without her laying that foundation, you wouldn't have been able to do what you did.
Nope,
right?
Not even close.
And so all of that time, some people might argue and go, "Man, she was an employee for that many years. What a waste." No. She built an incredible reputation, and it worked out exactly how it was supposed to work out. And I believe in God, right? We believe in God, and I believe that was God's way of doing it for you and your family. It's pretty cool.
Yeah,
no,
it is cool.
It is super cool. And especially because, like I said, growing up, my dad was my coach. My dad was our school teacher. He was out at 2:45, 3 o'clock. He would pick us up from school a lot. He would be at our practices. He would be at our games. And she wasn't sometimes. And the cool thing is that I know that she felt bad a lot of times, but the reality of their situation was my dad, she was the one making more of the money, and that their situation relied on her to make that money so that my dad could be the teacher, that he could be our like the guy that was just there for us all the time. And I know that there was times growing up that if she would miss a game or whatever, that she felt bad, but it was because she had to perform at her job. Mm-hmm. And what's been really cool is that, and I had a good relationship with my mom growing up, but it wasn't like my dad's, because my dad was just always with me. And the cool thing is, the other blessing with this is, for the last 8 years, yes, it's been in a working environment, but we have gotten so close, and our partnership has been so good, and our relationship, the time that we maybe missed growing up, we've been able to do the last 8 years. And that's what's been really cool too. And I think that 100% God laid this all
Everything
out.
works out.
Like,
everything always works out.
Yep,
if we can just remember that, right?
And have faith. We talked about this on the last podcast. If you just walk in faith, it all turns out good. Yeah.
It's 100% true.
Yeah.
And so
we get in our own way too often, thinking it has to go another way, or should be different, or this should be this way. Just like
to just control the things you can control and leave the results up to God.
Yeah.
It's the truth.
It's a cool story, man. It's awesome to hear. So let's pivot real quick and maybe wrap up with some personal life stuff. I know your mom and your dad still married, great people, right? And so you had this great example growing up.
Yeah.
I'm sure your dad, was there being a coach. I'm sure he was always cheering your mom on, right?
Totally.
Because it freed him up to do those things. Did you notice those things as a kid, that they worked really well and they had planned that out? Because it was a little bit different than, especially during that time growing up, it was different than most couples, right?
Right. Yeah. And I guess back then, I think about that now more than when I did growing up. I didn't, but they did work in such a good way, and their relationship has always just been so, everybody has their ups and downs, but I never have questioned, their love for each other. I've never questioned. They were always, for the most part, my mom was a little more on the yes side, and my dad was always like, why are we telling them yes again? Yeah. And she was always like, they deserve it. They deserve it. But I just always felt like they were on the same page, that they were one team. They were one, right? And that's been huge for, me and my marriage. And now that I'm growing a family, and I have an 18-month-old and have another one on the way in 9 weeks. And so, in a lot of different ways, those two really have set the stage for my life. And I'm super grateful for that. My dad even still, he still jokes that he's like, just remember, this is still my island.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Nice.
Because he is everyone knows Coach Hepp, right? And so he sometimes we poke fun at each other, and he's like, just remember, this is still my island.
I love it.
That's awesome.
But I'm super grateful for their example to me and my brother. My brother's just as hard as work. he has been a force in our business as well. And we both just get it from them. And the cool thing is work has dominated a lot of our conversations and a lot of, when we're together, work gets brought up. But the cool thing and the good thing is it's never in a bad way. It's just, and it's brought us closer. We hang out a lot more. Like growing up, I was always with friends, and I was always out with friends until my dad finished our basement and then made it like the place where everybody wanted to be. Yeah. And so then toward the end of high school, everyone was at our house.
He knew what he was doing.
That's what he wanted. That's what he wanted, and that's what I want. And so, it's just really cool to see now. Like I said, as I grow my family. Just to be able to learn from what they gave me and what they, the life that, because they lived such good lives, what has translated into a really grateful and blessed life that I have, and mindset that I have, because both of their reputations, I'm like, I don't want to let them down. I want that.
To carry on the legacy.
I want to carry on that legacy.
I think that's interesting what you said, because it's like, I'm guessing they don't have to tell you that, hey, don't let me down. It's just something you naturally feel because of the reputation they both have throughout.
And that was born into us when we were. I didn't want to let my dad down, and there was a few times in high school that I did, and word quickly. I mean, I did what I did. Word got back to my dad because he was at the school, and there was a few times, but for the most part, I was a really good kid because of his example, and mostly because I didn't want to let him down. I knew his, being at the school, being the coach, like I didn't want to be the problem child. Right. Yeah. And then fast forward to today, I know how much his reputation means to him and, how good of a life he's lived, and same with my mom. And I just want to continue that example for my kids.
That's awesome.
So
I think that's powerful, man. I think what a great story, and a generational legacy that you're creating right now too.
Yeah, that's the plan. Cool. That's the plan. Because now they will say this, they're the most simple people, and they didn't invest in real estate. They didn't, my mom had her 401k, my dad had his pension, and which is 100% totally fine. But now, and we see this now in 2023, it's harder for people to survive on just that alone. And so that's what's been so cool is financially the last 8 years, we have been able to buy real estate together. I've been able to, and it's more so been me leading them because that hasn't been their thing. Whereas I'm the one that's doing all the accounting. I'm the one that's seeing, how much we're paying in taxes and what we can do to offset that and where we can invest in real estate and what we're doing. And so it's been really cool because when we started this business, they really didn't have a ton. They gave us everything that we ever wanted, and my dad had the pension, my mom had the 401k, but it wasn't like they were super, super focused on 20, 30 years down the road necessarily financially. And they just always thought, because they're simple, they're like, we can live on dad's retirement if, worst case scenario. And so what we've been able to create together over the last 8 years financially to be able to set them up for retirement even more, and then to be able to continue that, has been, like I said, just the biggest blessing.
That's awesome. Well, it just shows, man, if you do the right things, you take a chance, you take a risk, start a business, work hard, treat people good, that you can do some
Sky's the limit.
Things,
and the opportunities, I hear people all the time, and I get it. I understand, it's hard to make money. It's hard to work for companies that are paying, the wage situation still here locally is definitely still a thing, especially with the rise in, cost of living with houses and whatnot.
Sure.
But when I hear that the jobs here, there's no jobs here, there's no opportunities here, all the jobs are low paying. I think there was a girl that posted the other day on St. George Word of Mouth that she was selling banana bread, and she had I think it was about a 6-month-old baby, posted a picture of herself. Hey, I'm in front of Costco selling banana bread. Come by and get it. She got flooded with people. I mean, we went and got some there, and I'm like, this is the perfect example of someone that's not playing a victim, and that is just saying, hey, I am going to go create for myself. And whether that's doing something like that, and I know that not everybody can just go start a business tomorrow, But if you
not everybody has a face like Macrae.
No, that's not true.
That's my excuse. I just don't have the face.
Whatever. But if you just have the mentality of, okay, I'm going to go create for my own, whatever that is, there's so much opportunity here.
Yeah.
And that's what I love to see. And that's what, through my videos, I meet different business owners, I meet employees, I meet people all over that are creating cool stuff. And that's part of the drive of why I do what I do, because I love that I can just go and do a video and people watch it, and then people go to their places of business, and it helps them. But during that, I get to meet them, become friends with them, see how I can help them, see what drives them. And there's so many cool people doing amazing things here. Yep. And I just want to keep that.
True.
I just want to keep that going.
Oh,
so awesome, man.
Well, you're doing it, man. Yeah. Appreciate you being on here today.
Yeah, no, appreciate you guys having me.
Really good stuff. I mean, that
was fun.
We've had so many good guests lately, and you're just another one that's icing on the cake, man. So we appreciate you.
That was fun.
Yeah, appreciate you doing it.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.